Alright, work's been a pain in the ass lately, so I haven't gotten much to do much lately, but I thought I'd make a quick vid of the old FM Towns I've been messing around with recently. Yeah, so this is an FM Towns Model 2H, which the FM Towns, especially the towers, can be really confusing because they all tend to basically be the same thing, but they have different numbering systems. See, as you can see, mine just says FM Towns. Because this is a Model 2H, not to be confused with the FM Towns Roman numeral 2, even though they both use the same case, and really the only difference between the FM Towns 1, or the FM Towns Model 2, and the FM Towns Roman numeral 2 is basically the BIOS ROM, I think, which, as far as I can tell, the only real difference hardware-wise is my system here can only take a maximum of 8 megs of RAM, while the one with the Roman numeral 2 tends to take about 10 megs. They go up higher. I mean, some of the ones with the Roman numeral 2 are the 486 processor models, but most of the ones that look like this, the vertical tower, the vertical CD-ROM, they're pretty much all 386 at 16 megahertz. But yeah, there was the Model 1, which didn't have this, which I'll show you in a minute. And then the Model 2, which is what this is, and then the earlier FM Towns Roman numeral 2s that use the same processor are pretty much exactly the same. It's mainly just the difference in RAM. But yeah, this is a Model 2H, and as you can see, we've got the classic vertical CD-ROM drive, the 2 floppy drives, the various ports for keyboard, mic, headphones, and the pad or mouse. And then here is actually, it looks kind of like an equalizer, but it's for the volume, and it's probably one of the coolest features of this thing. And then you got the volume controls and the power switch. I love these machines, especially the vertical CD-ROMs. They look beautiful, but unfortunately, well, the vertical CD-ROM not only looked cool, but was kind of the main appeal of the machine, because this was one of the cheapest CD-ROM drives ever made. And unfortunately, they haven't aged so well. Mine does work just fine. The laser's fine, it reads CDs no problems. But unfortunately, the door on this thing, you see how this basically works is you open it up and then it just flips out. The spindle for the CD-ROM, it doesn't stick on, it's just flat. You literally put the disc on the inside of the cover upside down and then just close it, and it just gently holds the disc in the position against the spindle. It doesn't lock into place or anything. And because of that, often when you just close it and lift it, sometimes it doesn't get perfectly aligned on the spindle, and then you get reading problems. When I first got this, I didn't know about this, and so I had a lot of issues getting to read discs, but once I figured out where the sweet spot was, it works perfectly fine. But as you can see, I don't actually want to hit the open button now, because changing games can be a bit of a pain, because yeah, the door's vertical device is starting to show its age. But generally, once I get a game to work properly, if I don't open it, it works fine, which is kind of nice because it kind of encourages me to actually play the games I have, which is something that I don't do as much of as I'd actually like to. But yeah, so yeah, it's a cool system, and it's seen better days. If you want a more robust model, there's a reason a lot of people prefer the desktop versions, but it really is badass looking. And then we've got your standard FM Towns monitor, which in Japan will cost you virtually nothing. Mine was $20. Great, I mean, they're small, but a great little tri-sync monitor. Though, to my knowledge, all the Towns games are either 15K or 31K. I don't think any of them actually support the 24K mode, but this is a legitimate tri-sync monitor. It's only 9 inches or so, but very nice little monitor. Which you can also use for, arcade boards or whatever. Then I've got your typical Towns compact keyboard, which is made of iron, or at least it feels like it. It's a heavy beast of a keyboard. And surprisingly, it's extremely sensitive. Like, you can just barely touch a key and it'll register. You don't even have to push it down. Then I've got the various controllers. I've got the good old Marty pad, which is what I generally use for games. And then I've got the... I don't actually have one of the really old Towns PC pads, but I've got one of the later ones, which I really like this pad because it's slightly bigger than the Marty pad, and the texture's rough, so it's easier to grip. The Marty one's really smooth and slips out of your hand easily. But unfortunately, the problem with these is the diagonals on this suck. The D-pad, the 4 directions work fine, but the diagonals, you really have to push them hard. The Marty pad doesn't do that. It works perfectly fine in all 8 directions. So, unfortunately, I only really use this one for like 4-directional games. For most games, I tend to stick with the Marty pad. And then I've got I actually have the Marty mouse. You know, the Marty and the Towns PC, they all use the same connectors. The accessories are all, you can just swap them around, which is nice. And then take a quick look at the back of the Towns here. I don't have the best lighting here, but as you can see, mine is actually came with a modem, which is, I think, a max of 2400 baud. But believe it or not, this actually isn't useless. I'll probably never use it, but I'll get to that in a minute. Then I installed this myself just recently. This is the Video Card 3, which is a nice little card to stick in your Towns because it's got its own RGB out, which replaces the one built into the system. But more importantly than that, it has S-Video and composite out, as well as input. The input's meant for superimposing, but the output is just standard S-Video and composite out. So if you don't have a monitor, you can always hook it straight up to a TV. Works really well, though you do have to kind of come up with your own custom cable, because this is actually a Mini DIN 6. But thankfully, that's basically, the same plug that like an old PS2 keyboard cable uses. So I just took one and hacked off the end and then threw on the S-Video cable. So look forward to some direct FM Towns PC captures through S-Video, because I can do that now that I have this. The card itself are actually generally pretty cheap in Japan, but nice little upgrade for your Towns. And it's kind of a neat card because with the FM Towns, everything is controlled basically by ROM. There's no drivers whatsoever for this card. You just stick it in and it works. The card itself actually has little pots on it for adjusting like the RGB gain and the color and the hue, but they're actually on the card itself. So if you want to adjust them, you have to take it out of the system, adjust it, then stick it back in. So it's not something I'd mess with often. Then on the back, then you've got the RGB that's built into the computer. But since I've got the video card in now, I'm not using this one anymore. I'm just using the one on the video card. And then you've got your connector for a third floppy drive. More likely if you want to use one of the old 5¼ inch discs, which you'd use that for. Then you've got printer. Then you've got the DB25 serial cable connector, which is also actually still useful. And then at the bottom, you've got the SCSI for an external floppy drive, and then of course you've got the audio inputs and outputs. The Towns model PCs actually have an internal speaker, and it's actually a pretty nice little speaker. But it is only mono only, so if you want stereo, you'd use the RCA outs to connect to whatever, but I usually just use the internal speaker because it sounds pretty damn good. I mean, it's right here, and also there's a reset button down here, but it's a fairly powerful little speaker for, it's only like, that big. The side panel comes off, which is where the RAM is. This is a 2H, and mine has been upgraded to 6 megs of RAM. It can take a max of 8, which I might do if I find a RAM chip for cheap, but I don't think anything uses like more than 4 megs max, and the majority of games only use 2. But yeah, I've got 6 megs. And the 2H here is one of the, actually I'm fairly lucky because the 2H is one of the few models that actually has an internal hard drive. It's only 40 megabits, but it actually, or megabytes, 40 megabytes. But yeah, this baby has an internal 40 megabyte hard drive, which was pretty rare on the Towns models. They all support hard drives, but the majority of them don't have internal hard drives. You had to use the external SCSI jack. Alright, and quick look at my growing pile of game software here. Personally, I'm kind of weird. You see, like with my MSX collection, I only want fully boxed copies, but mainly because that's how I started getting them from the start, and they're easier to find. I've got with the Towns, a long time ago, which I'll show you in a minute, in just a junk shop, I found a copy of Tatsujino, aka Truxin 2, and Maho Daisakusen for the FM Towns. Just loose CD copies in cases, not the big boxes, for a fairly cheap price in just a junk store, which I picked up because I was amazed I even found them. And then a little while later, I found a Marty for it was like $20 or so, if I remember right. Fully boxed, beautiful condition, but the laser's totally dead. It will not even detect an audio CD. It's done. I've messed with it. And I've been saving that in hopes of finding a replacement. But then finally I found this thing for almost nothing. I was like, you know what? Screw it. The computer's better than the Marty anyway. The Marty's kind of a neat little curiosity, but if you really want to experience the FM Towns library, you need a damn PC. So, since that reason, since I got games from the start that were in, not complete, I don't really care so much about the completion's sake. If I can get a complete game for cheap, I will, but I'm not really going to be like an anal collector of the FM Towns. I go with what's cheap and available. And which is why, for example, I have this. This is something I recommend if you want to get into FM Towns gaming, if you want to get a Marty, this is a wonderful thing to get. This is the Cry Gokan pack. Cry was the company that ported over a lot of Sega games to the FM Towns, and they released this budget pack, which I think originally came in a blister pack, no box, so it just came in these sleeves. But as you can see, it's got a combined manual. But yeah, you get Afterburner, Afterburner 3, Turbo Outrun, Last Survivor. Last Survivor is amazing. If you get a Towns, get this stupid game. If you're not familiar with it, Last Survivor was a Sega arcade game, and arguably one of the oldest first-person shooters out there. Came out in 1989. I think it was like the same year that Midi Maze came out. It's actually technically not first-person, it's third-person, but your character's wireframe, so you're looking through them, so in a sense it is first-person. But basically the idea is to kill everything that moves, because you see each character starts with a key, and the idea is to kill enough people to get their keys, so you get 4 so you can escape the level first. And it's a pretty cool game, and the Towns port, the actual arcade board has not been dumped yet, it's not emulated, so this is really much the only way to play it. I've never even seen the arcade board for sale, or have I ever heard of anyone that owns it. It's extremely rare. It's rumored that it was only released in Sega-owned arcades, but this is a very decent, nice port of it, and there's videos of it online, so I'm not going to show it to you today, but it's split screen, and so you can get 2 players, but also, this game supports both the modem and serial play. So if the modem, you can do a dial-up, old-fashioned call up another computer, and do 2-player over that, which I'm hoping to try one day. But even cooler, if you use the serial port on the back of this thing and connect 2 Towns computers together, you can actually play this in 4-player. So yeah, you can do 4-player first-person shooter deathmatch on an FM Towns computer. Fucking awesome. And then we also have Galaxy Force 2. So, the Cry ports, to be honest, aren't... when it comes to arcade ports on the Towns, there's basically Cry doing the Sega, and Ving that did everything else. In general, Ving was definitely the better company, and you can tell because the ports of these, they look great, but the frame rate could have been better. To be honest, this is probably the best port of Turbo Outrun, but comparing it to, say, Chase HQ that was done by Ving, Chase HQ is just the better game. But still though, if you actually like Turbo Outrun, I'm one of the few people that does. I'll admit the first Outrun is the better game, but I like Turbo Outrun. This is actually a pretty decent port of it, and unless I've missed something recently, I still think we've yet to get an arcade perfect port of Turbo Outrun. But yeah, this set cost me, I think, about $20. So definitely a great set to get, because most of the collectors don't want this because they want the big box original versions. But 5 great games. Well, to be honest, I don't really like Galaxy Force 2 Untown so much because the frame rate is it's only about 15 frames per second, so it's not so it looks great, but it really isn't that playable today. But you get 4 good to great ports of some nice classic Sega arcade games, and for the $20 I paid, it was worth it just for Last Survivor, because yeah, it's the only port of that exists. And if you want to play a great first-person shooter classic from the arcades, Last Survivor is awesome. Moving on, of course, we have Raise Amber. Excellent game. A lot of people will tell you the sequels are better. I disagree. The sequels do have slightly better graphics, but in my honest opinion, this is the better designed game. This game is incredibly hard. I played it for a week straight, but I didn't manage to once see it. And the design of this game is perfect. It is incredibly hard, but once you figure out what you're doing, you can't fault it. This is one of those you die, it's your fault type of games. Excellent. Also, this is one of the few towns shooters that's actually exclusive to the towns, so I'm sure everyone for towns wants a copy of this, and they should have one. And then we've got Tatsujino, aka Truxton 2, which is one that, yeah, I found a few years ago in a budget rack that it was actually in a mix of soundtracks. So yeah, I don't have the fancy big box, but for the amount I paid for this, I'm perfectly happy. We've got the Maho Daisaku-sen, which I found next to the Tatsujino on the same day. To be honest, this is one of the more overhyped ports on the system. It looks great, but to be honest, it runs like crap. On a 386 model, when I'm really bored, I give it a few boots up, but it only runs at like 15 frames. It's just, for its time, it was the best you could get. On a 486, which I don't have, it runs better. But even still, it still gets a lot of slowdown. I don't know, maybe if you've got one of the later Pentium model FM towns, this might run like perfectly, but in general, for what a complete copy of this game goes for, I don't recommend it. But I got mine for almost nothing, so worth holding on to. We just got the Exciting Towns demo CDs. Just demo CDs, but it does have the first level of Viewpoint, although I already have that in Neo Geo, and more importantly, the first level of Kyokyoku Tiger, which that's one I'm hoping to find cheap somewhere someday, because FM Towns port of that is great. Then we have my pride and joy here, Ultima Underworld, baby. I love this game, and I miss it, and I used to play it on my old 486 PC, so finally I can replay it again on the FM Towns, and this is I want to open this one up because this is, oh, they really, Fujitsu was one of the few companies that bothered to import, Western PC games, and they really went out of their way with some of the stuff. I mean, look how there's, this book is just the history of the Abyss. Then there's the actual, player's guide that tells you how to play the game. Then there's the setup guide telling you how to, run the game. Then, you've got the registration card, a full-on map here of the first level. Then you've got the operation guide, which is like the setup guide part 2. Not really sure why there's 2 of them, but there are. And then another piece of paper. This one just warns you that the game won't start unless you've got a save disk in. And then you've got the actual game. And it even comes with a letter opener. Nice die-cast metal letter opener from the game. Very nice set, and I got this for around, if I do the conversion, probably about $60. But yeah, this is a personal PC favorite of mine that I haven't played in a long, long time. Cannot wait to play through it again. Such an awesome game. And this one I got from a website, and for the price, I wasn't expecting it to be, in this great of shape, but this is absolutely beautiful condition, beautiful shape. Yeah, I'm very, very happy to own this. definitely a PC classic. Kind of interesting though that I'm looking forward to playing old Western PC games on my premium Japanese computer, but saving that one for a special day. We've got Queen of Duelist Gaiden Alpha, although it says down here that it's Queen of Duelist Gaiden plus Gaiden Alpha, though the spine is just Gaiden Alpha. This is your typical girly fighting game, lots of boobies. Although this one actually plays pretty good from what I've heard. I haven't tried it yet. Do that another time, because as I said, I've just been too busy, and it's kind of a pain to change the discs, so I'm going through the games kind of one at a time. Yeah, this one's pretty cheap, and hilariously, there's also another version on Towns that it looks exactly the same, but instead of red, it's blue, and it's called Light, which they took all the porn out of it. I'm not sure why anyone would want that, because, I mean, who the hell doesn't want porn? But more importantly than that, it's also got this version you can disable the porn anyway. So this version you can have porn or not have porn, and the other version you just can't have porn, so get the porn version. Then we just have this cheap piece of crap. This is actually a 2-pack, Custom Mate 2 and Itsuka Doko ga de. Both in, just basically 2 cheap cocktail soft porn games re-released in 1 pack. This actually came with my Busted Marty. The store just threw it in like, here you are, we don't want this anymore. So, I have that. Cheap little porn games. I mean, if you're going to own FM Towns, you have to have porn games. If you don't, you're just, wasting your talents. Okay, moving on, then we got Taito Chase HQ. I don't have the big box for this, and I don't really care. This is an amazing port. Technically, the Saturn port is graphically better, but this one plays so much better. It is incredibly fast. Like, I'm amazed how smooth this is. This is, if you're going to play FM Towns games, get this one. We have another Western classic. We've got Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. And inside this, I also have a copy of Fate of Atlantis. Yeah, the extra Crusade disc is down there. But 2 great LucasArts classics, and Fate of Atlantis was... I have never played Last Crusade, so I'm looking forward to finally playing that one. I had Fate of Atlantis in my 486, and I loved it, but yeah, I never really got around to... I never actually managed to beat it as a kid. I just wasn't smart enough at the time. Then we've got Terrestrial Defense Force. This is a fairly generic strategy game, but I like this one mainly just because it's by Data West, and I love them, and I love their music. Same people that made Razamber and like the Vajras on the Laser Active. Yeah, this is one I play it for the soundtrack more than anything else, but it's your typical hexagonal strategy game. And then this one I actually have the full box for. This is Rainbow Islands Extra. Pretty much a wonderful port of the arcade board. And you can even switch between remixed CD audio and the original PCM. So this one's not too pricey. One of the cheaper Ving releases. Chase HQ is probably the cheapest of the Ving games. But yeah, this one wasn't too bad if you look around. FM Towns prices are kind of insane, and mainly because people don't know any better. But in Japan, at least, you can get some good deals. I mean, some of them will cost you a lot. And then just one more game, we've got Elm Knight. Aliving Body Armor Elm Knight. This one is the one I'm going to show you quickly today. This, as you can see, is actually a giant robot first-person shooter. Now, this was made by Microcabin, and as you can tell, they were really proud of this game. 2 years of work, 2.5 hours of visual scenes, and I totally believe it. There is a ton of animated scenes in this game, which might turn some people off, but as you can see, it's actually a fairly okay-looking first-person shooter. I mean, it's old school, but it's kind of neat because it's, in battles you're fighting like that, but when you're in towns, you're actually just walking around in first person, talking to people, and you also have a gun and a knife, so there's a few parts in the game where you're actually just fighting, just out in the open as a soldier dude. Although most of the action you're in you're a robot. So This is one that I've never seen anything out, and I haven't seen any videos on it either. I bought it because it was really cheap and I like the screenshots, and comes with a fairly nice manual. But yeah, it's got a ton of animation, and it requires 2 megs of RAM, so let's just get this started. So, it should work on a Marty, but it does actually require the keyboard. In fact, if you don't have a keyboard plugged in, the game won't even boot. So if you've ever tried to play this on a Marty and didn't work, you probably didn't have a keyboard in. But then again, I don't have a working Marty, so I can't really confirm that. But yeah, so Towns turns up. CD lights flashing. There we go. Yeah, I only have 7 minutes left on the tape, but let's see what we can do. Okay, menu. When I first got this, I could not figure out how the hell to control this, because it only uses the keyboard, and the controls are all supposed to be done with the numpad, but since I have the compact keyboard, I don't have a numpad. So it took me a while, but I finally figured out the numpad becomes these if you don't have a numpad. So, load a game, start a new game, format the disk. There's actually a training mode, which is pretty comprehensive and really teaches you all the controls, which is pretty cool. Load. And we'll just start at, just do a battle since I don't have much time left. Load. It's got a CD light, there's also an HDD light. It's a fun system to watch in motion. New computers are all just too generic. The old ones like this had cool little custom parts that look cool. So yeah, so the controls are mostly this. Like you use this to... There we go. Yeah, a little bit of dialogue. But yeah, you use this to go forward, back, left, right, and then turn left, turn right. And then over here you got your afterburner, silent mode, chaff, flares, main fire, head Vulcans, jump, radar, quick weapon switch. Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue, but the action is awesome. So, the story's pretty good. You might get a little bored if you don't speak Japanese, but the animation in the scenes are really, really good, and when I get more time, I'll probably do some real captures of this game, just because there aren't any. And then what else? Yeah, and then enter brings up your weapon menu. You can switch weapons anytime by hitting the PF keys, or you can hit the weapon menu, which pauses the game. And you basically, there's like offensive weapons like guns and missiles, and then there's ones like landmines, and you can just hit this to switch between two whenever you want. And you always have your head Vulcans. So you look at the screen here, we've got your selected weapon ammo, your Vulcan ammo. Then down here, you probably can't see it so well because I'm recording on the screen, but you've got the main radar, which just tells you where you have to go, and then you've got the one showing near you where you actually are. And then you've got, your weapons and the ammo, and then over here you've got your damage. And these little things will light up when people talk to you. It's fairly immersive looking for, its time. But yeah, I love see, it has basically a volume sensor, and you can basically like clap your hands to set it off, but yeah, it just does that whenever it's running, which is fun to watch. Alright, only 4 minutes left on the tape. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Fortunately, you cannot skip the dialogue. That is the one thing. Although, admittedly, I'm not going to survive long, because trying to play, in a game that's meant for 2 hands on a keyboard, while I'm just holding, the camera in one hand, isn't going to work so well. But this is just... Most of these games I have, there's already tons of footage on anyway, but... So, something a little different. Come on, come on, come on. I really don't want to have to make another vid, because I'd have to, merge the two together, and I'm far too lazy to do that. Come on, come on, come on, come on. But yeah, the game takes place in a neat world, because there's robots, but there's also, monsters and creatures, and, you actually fight a dragon as a boss fight, and then he joins you. But, fairly interesting game, and think it was also on the PC-98, which I think it did a bit better on. But it's quite cheap on the towns. Well, in Japan anyway. Good luck for those of you that are importing. The import towns market is extremely inflated. I mean, some of the games, especially if you want complete copies, are getting pretty pricey, but if you're like me and you don't mind the cheaper ways, get some good stuff. Come on! I should have loaded my other file. Shut up, Rick. I don't care. But yeah, so the game basically goes, battle, story, battle, story. And yeah, I've been playing it for a few days now, and it's starting to get pretty hard. Because your ammo is fairly limited. So you've really gotta think of when to use, the guns, when to use the missiles. You also have landmines, you get remote controlled landmines that you can blow up whenever you want to, and it's kind of neat too, because when enemies shoot missiles at you, I mean, you've got countermeasures, like you've got chaff and flares, but you can also just literally jump over them if you get the timing right. And the training mode all teaches you how to do it, so once you get used to the weird setup, because you use these and you have to reach over the arrow keys to get to them. Oh, shut up! Damn it! I've only got a minute left, but I'll try to do a capture video of this at some point anyway. But either way, I mean, you can basically see what it is. It's a sprite-based first-person shooter. You can only move at 90-degree angles, but you turn left, you turn right, you jump up and down, you shoot stuff, and they're all robots except when you're actually in human mode, and then you shoot humans. But I mean, of course, the window's fairly small, but it's really all you need. In fact, this is the kind of game where I find it easier to watch the map, to move around and just look at the main screen when you want to actually see what you're shooting at. But yeah, I've got less than a minute left on the tape, and I don't think we're actually gonna get through the dialogue. Ah, well, we'll do more of it later. Just don't really have time right now, and I feel like shooting my mouth off. See, the lights are blinking because it's talking. Oh, here we go. Run. So you can run around. Got less than a minute on the tape. Oh, there's a robot. And I'm playing one-handed. Gun. Vulcans. You can punch too, and eventually you get like swords and stuff. Jump. Die. Ah, I killed him. And this is really hard to play with one hand.